My name is ANEESHA Parrone, and I live in a place where the weather is very beautiful. I live in Colorado, and we have very unusual weather, so that was a very appropriate introduction for us. And I live in a place where not only the weather, but the surroundings are very, very beautiful, and that's what really inspires me in my work. I'm constantly looking both on the inside and the outside for my inspiration. So sometimes I travel to different parks. This was in North Carolina, and it was Sourwood Mountain, and so I used to go there all the time, and that was the weaving that kind of came out of that experience. Sometimes I talk to different people in different parts of the world, and I'm inspired by their landscapes and what would they like to see. And in different places, one person wanted to see more sky. So I found I was really weaving a lot more sky. Sometimes I'll add things to my pieces. Sometimes small pieces will be added on top of other pieces. Sometimes I use the Colorado sandstone and the slate that I find, and different copper wires and gemstones. I think that my weavings sometimes serve as a conduit. I do a lot of hospice work, and one time with the Weaving Safe Harbor, it was going to be a horizontal piece, and then in the middle of the night, I just started weaving on it, and I thought, no, I think this needs to be vertical, and it looks kind of like a harbor. So I'm going to call it Safe Harbor. And in the morning, I found that the tsunami had hit Japan, and many people had died. And so during the night, I was creating a kind of safe harbor for people who had passed on from that storm. I am inspired by different artists. I am inspired by people who are dancers, people who are musicians, and Discernment actually was a friend of mine whose father had uh, had had a lot of memory loss through dementia and Alzheimer's, and so I still see the person, but this Alzheimer's kind of is like a screen. I do, sometimes I curate and invite artists to do shows with me. This show was on the environment, and 4 of my very young students, plus an adult glass artist, we combined to create a piece on a whole exhibit on ecology. This piece called Interrelatedness was one of my students. He started when he was 5 years old, and by the time we had the exhibit, he was 7 years old. And he was just inspired by the ecology and the theme of the exhibit that he created that piece. And it did sell, and he donated a portion to Ocean Alliance to help clean up the oceans. So I like that whole aspect of inspiring people either through my work. I do labyrinth workshops, and some of my students have gone on to do either more tapestry weavings or to do more work with the labyrinths. And so again, it's kind of exciting to me to be inspiring people to look inside themselves, to see what's going on with the weather on the outside, and how does that reflect on the inside. Sometimes we have ideas and we kind of get stuck in things. So weaving is a way to kind of break through that stuckness. And I've actually known people who have used weaving to help them with their cancer therapy. And because we're always crossing the median line while we're weaving, we're going forward and backward. And even with our legs, if we have a floor loom, we're crossing again the median line. So we're making new pathways as we're weaving. And ideas and different concepts, they really excite me. So I do a lot of reading. And if a phrase really strikes me, then I will go with it and see where it leads me and see how somebody else can inspire me. Uh, this piece, Village on the Canal, my husband and I used to travel on the canals and on the Erie Canal, and we used to go to different villages. And so that was a very fun time for me. So I was inspired to do the weaving. I'm very inspired by the elements, and I'm inspired by especially the water and the earth, and then also fire and wind. And with wind comes the spirit. I do a postcards and send them out through the mail to people. This piece, Transformative 21, it takes 21 days to change a habit. So that piece was in the exhibit on ecology. This piece, Convergence, I had 7 different friends, and sometimes I came together with different people. They didn't know each other, but I was the common denominator. And that was the weaving and how our sensibilities to healing and to nature and to our art form, how they really pushed us forward in our art, in each one's art. This was by Debussy's Underwater Cathedrals. This project I did when there was a lot of conflict in a particular part of the country, and I really wanted peace. So I every day I worked on the peace project. And some of these slides just show how I live in such a beautiful area, and I do a lot of plein air weavings. This was a farm near where I live. This is Caribou Ranch up in the Rocky Mountains near Netherland. And I went with a bunch of painters that day. This again is just kind of my impression of a lake and a area. This is Coot Lake. I'm very inspired by Coot Lake. I walk there, but I also take my supplies and go there to weave. And usually it takes me about a week to do a plein air piece. And this one is at Sawmill Ponds. And I never know what the weather's going to be like. Sometimes the water is very calm and clear. Next day, it could be very windy. Sometimes there could be animals about, and sometimes nothing but me. This is right about 2 miles from my house, and Estes Park, always beautiful, especially in the autumn when the aspens change. And the sky is constantly an inspiration to me. And we have a lot of sky in Colorado. This is about a 1/4 mile from my house. It's Dodd Farm. And I'm always intrigued by Dodd Farm. I think it's very beautiful. It's a beautiful farm, but it's a beautiful backdrop against the Rockies. It's just a nice place to be and to sit and to walk. And this is the piece that resulted in this. You can see when I was weaving the water, it was very, very windy. But then when I took the picture at the beginning, it was very calm. And this is a show that I curated with Linda Four, Fate, Destiny, and Self-Determination. We've been all over the world. And there are more than 120 different countries that are represented in each one of those pieces. I work with seniors, and they do a lot of very interesting pieces. And my studio is Arpana ANEESHA Studio, and you can see a lot of my work on my website. So if there are any questions.
This is Chris. Every time I see the weaving piece, that like a really labor intense, and also recall our human civilization. It's actually weaving. It's a group work, right? If I remember correctly. When you talk about how your friend went to the live landscape painting exercise, you would go with them. So will you also do your weaving there? But you say, oh, you actually did.
The painters, they finished 1 or 2 pieces even, in the 4 hours that we were there. I had a very small 5x7 and I completed 80% of it, but I had to do the rest at home. And so, and I was frantically weaving the whole time, just weaving, weaving, weaving. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? How's this inspire me? And not stopping to think about what I was doing, which a lot of times with the loom, that's what I will do. I'll stop, I'll contemplate, I'll say, okay, what color wants to go now? I do most of my work is very intuitive. Sometimes I am tuning into people, and I find that a particular weaving actually goes to somebody, but I might not know it for 3 or 4 years. And then they'll be talking and go, I have a weaving that belongs to you.
This is Dorothy. I know the area that you are in. I know Estes Park, and I've driven all around there. I used to go almost every year. But I wanted to ask, and I think I got the answer about the size, because I was curious, because it's really difficult to tell size, but you have that last picture with your hands and the strings, or I don't know, the weft and the wove. Is that pretty much what most of your weavings are, about that size?
Right now they are. I used to work very large. I'd like to again, but I have a very small apartment. And so I used to do pieces that were 10 to 15 feet and then the size of my loom. But I'd like to even play with even the size of my loom and extend that to doing triptychs and things like that. That small size, I have the one that I did with the Plein Air. That one is, the loom itself is 10 inches by 10 inches. So by time I take it off the loom, it's about 3 by 5. The loom that you saw, that's actually one of my students. She's 94, I think. And that is a loom that is, I think it's 16 by 14, so they usually come out 12 by 14 inches. That's what I'm working on a lot now. But when I have more space, I can actually weave on. I have a large loom that's 50 inches wide, and so I can really pull things away and look at it. Also, I've had nice houses that I've lived in that have big space. So I had a 50-inch tapestry loom. And that one Convergence, that was woven on a large tapestry loom. Same with the Sourwood Mountain, that was woven on the tapestry loom. I like that because I get a nice large piece, at least I'd say 8 feet by 50 inches. And so that's a nice size, but with the tapestry loom that I did have, I could actually unwind it and keep going. So it was a continuous warp, which was nice because then I could do those 15 feet ones.
Here's a question from Carl, Tennessee. He asks, how do you think the healing piece, including quality of your tapestry, works?
Sometimes I do believe that it is the materials themselves. I used to work a lot in wool. I'm finding I work a lot in cotton now, but also a lot of times I will add copper. Copper is a conduit, and I think that the way that the healing and the spirit kind of work, it is that I am tapping into somebody that is, for instance, asking an internal question, and then I answer it through intuition. I start thinking about, like for instance, when I combine wool and cotton, the cotton has a whole nother quality to it. It's more flat, it's more compact, and so it kind of creates a different kind of a texture. Also, the type of technique that I use, that also has an effect not only on the visual, but really and truly, I look inside and I start to feel what am I feeling on the inside. And just like that piece that I do hospice work, and I sensed that I was actually doing hospice work with uh, an an event that was about to happen. People needed a safe harbor. Uh, they needed to be out of the confusion of the tsunami and rest in that peacefulness, hopefully, that comes when somebody's dying. I recently had a car accident and I was dying, and it was very peaceful. And I do want to take that into the world, that peacefulness, so people won't be afraid. So I hope that answers your question. If not, you can go on my website and join my mailing list and ask me anything you want.